Professor K here. So last we left off, we talked a lot about how we could modify data in JavaScript and what some of sort of the catches were with different types of JavaScript and modifying those pieces of data. So that was cool and all, but I want to take a look at how to poke around at this stuff on a real website. So let's just open up bu.edu and we're just gonna play around with how to, let's try and add some text to this title here. So first of all, we're going to go to inspect element. And what I want to show you here is this console window. Now this console window is actually the same thing that you're seeing over here. So if I were to actually go and type this same bunch of code into my console window, so let me just pop open my developer tools here and just paste this in and run this, I would get that exact same bunch of stuff. I would get number, 30, and number. It would run each of those console logs one at a time. And you can just use the trash button to clear these out. So you actually have an option. You don't have to pull up CodePen every time you want to test something in JavaScript. You can do it right here. You can do let Ashley equal some name. You can put a semicolon in, and then you can console.log. And this is interesting. Look, you've got some autocomplete stuff now. Ashley. What do you think that'll be? Some name. Cool. So what's the benefit of working in your browser console? Well, the first thing is you might have noticed that I'm getting some really nice autocomplete stuff, and I'm learning a little bit more about what's available to me. So when I start typing console, check this out. Console is actually got a lot more going on. And there's stuff in here. And if I just hit enter after console, I could see exactly what that is. Whoa, like look at this, this is cool. What on earth is going on here? Let's find out. I wonder what type of thing this is. Do you know what type of thing this is? I don't. Let's find out. Let's do console.log type of console. Let's just see what type of thing console is. What are we working with here? What exactly is console? It's an object. Okay, so this is a new thing, right? This type of thing where you have the arrows and you've got these brackets and then you can kind of click down in. Look at this. Here's log console.log. So we are actually getting access to the log function from console. That's what you're doing when you use console.log. It's actually a real basic type of JavaScript function. And this is what the whole, this is what all of JavaScript is really built on, is just objects, things that kind of, it's like a little structure that keeps related stuff together. So if we look at like the console object, we have log, but we also have table, we have count, we have debug, we have all kinds of console.error, we have all kinds of weird stuff in here. Trace, time, assert. I don't know half of these, to be honest. You couldn't know half the JavaScript stuff that's available to you in your whole lifetime if you tried. It's incredible how much there is. But what we're doing here is we're using something that someone built for us to make our lives easier. So someone built a console API for us, and they gave us a bunch of functions, one of which is log, and that log does some stuff for us. It's like a little set of instructions that gives us back something helpful. So when we talk to console.log, and we send it a string or a variable name or something like that, you know, a type of blah, it will tell us what it is. And that's kind of the helpful thing that that's giving us. So that's really cool, right? Because now you can kind of see what's going on behind the scenes in your web pages. Just like there's a console log, there's actually a console.table. This is really good for, let's see if we can put console table console, what that looks like. It's like a different type of formatting. Oh, it's not very good for that. type of thing, that doesn't really help us. I'll find out what that's good for later. But, ooh, Command K works here too. That's really handy. So we also have, if you just start typing in the console, you can start seeing what's available to you. You have data layer, debugger, decode, document. Documents, really interesting. So document is part of the document object model. The document object model, or DOM, is just a way of representing through our program, through JavaScript, all of the data that's in your web page. And it took me, honestly, I didn't get this until this year. I was like, DOM, what's that? And once I started learning JavaScript, I really understood. So the reason that we call it the document object model is because this is actually an object, like that's the type of JavaScript we're working with, the data type we're working with. So let's take a look. If we were to console.log, and we did our type of, and then we checked out what document is, it would say it's an object. That's why it's called a document object. And then the model is just saying it should look kind of like this. All right, so cool, but what do I want to do with my document? So let's head back to, and we'll just get this out of the way here. Let's head back to our home page over here, just kind of get this looking like this and this so we can see both at the same time. So in your document, if you just kind of hit enter and take a look, you can see all kinds of things about this web page. You just poke around, what's available. Here, oh, we can tell what the URL is. That's kind of handy. What if I wanted to automatically append like a URL to the page down there? You've got all kinds of stuff. It's like almost overwhelming. But here, you've got children, and this is literally the HTML element. See, look at this. You can even read it. HTML class equals JS audio background size. This is literally like a piece of data that allows you to get to pieces of HTML in here and modify them. You've got all kinds of stuff in here. Plenty of things that don't really help you out. But what we do have are a couple of, I'm just going to teach you like two really handy little pieces. So let's see if I can find them here in my document. Let's see if we have a query selector. It wasn't what I was looking for. PRS. That's okay. I know it exists. So if you type document, and then just like console, remember how we type console, and then to get to something inside console, log, we type .log, and that gives us the function log. Well, we're actually going to do the same thing with document here. Let's go to document, and then let's type a dot and just see what we've got access to here. This is all the different stuff we can get at. Sometimes it's a little easier to look this way. And it's like, look at this. You've got like replace child. That's interesting. You've got like, root element. You've got scripts. Let's type here query selector all. So this is a really handy function. This is going to take, and if you even like start putting in the parentheses for the function, we'll talk about functions and how to write them more next time, but today we're just going to talk about using them. It'll even give you kind of like a little hint on how to use it. You need one argument, but only 0 passed. So what do we need for query selector all? What you need is a selector. Now, where does that sound familiar from? CSS, right? You use selectors in CSS all the time. It's the exact same thing in JavaScript. So all that CSS work you just did, to learn how to select things, elements, classes, IDs, those are all totally applicable here. You can use that information right now. So let's find out. What do we think? I want to add something to just this one little title here. I just want to change the title using JavaScript, and I want it to say something different. So here, this is BU Banner GFX title. That's my class. And in my console, I'm just going to type dot, just like I would in CSS, BU Banner GFX title. And it'll even give you a preview. It says, oh, yeah, I know where that is. I've got a little list of stuff that's that I can give you. And if you take a peek in this, if you just kind of arrow through, look at this. There you go. That's that HTML. And if you click down in here, you can see everything about that HTML. So here we've got some children. It's got a BU banner title. What's inside that HTML? If you were to go and look in Inspector, check this out. Here's that BU banner title H3. It's right there in the data. You can muck around with it as much as you like. Here's class list. Do you want to add a class to something? Modify the class list. This is just like such a fun thing to kind of poke around and see how much control you have over everything. You can even see offset height, how far from the top of another element something is. You can see, look at all these ons, on forever. These are events, right? So anytime you see an on in front of something, that's like something has happened in the JavaScript, and you're going to do something in reaction to that. Don't need to know it now, but you can start to kind of infer what's going on here. You can get everything inside of this, including the BU banner. What's the parent element? Pretty cool, right? So I want to change the inner text on this. I want to, and just knowing that I only have one of these, I'm going to change this to document.querySelector. That's a little shortcut if you know you only have one of these things and you only want to change it in one place. And I'm just going to change the inner text or inner HTML to something different. So let's change this to bunnies. Now when I hit enter, if I've got this right, this should be replaced with bunnies. Oh, inner HTML is not a function? Fine, let's do inner text. What do you mean it's not a function? Rude. All right, well, let's take a look at what this is. Maybe we just need text. Text content. Aha, there we go. Now we're seeing, because see, it'll actually give you like a little preview of what's going on here. So let's just try and replace this with bunnies. Oh, you know what? It's not a function. Equals. Bunnies. It's hard to know when things are functions and not, huh? All right, so this is saying that text content, let's take this out for a moment. It has a value. So this is kind of like one big old variable. And to change it, we need to use the equals to assign to it. So we're going to call this bunnies. When I hit enter on this, this should change to bunnies. Let's give it a try. Bunnies! Check it out! I was able to change that right on the fly. In fact, you can change this to whatever you want at this point. Hit enter, and it'll change it right there. You could, let's see if we wanted to, what's the difference between query selector and query selector all? Well, query selector is going to do one thing. Query selector all is going to select all the things. So if we were to select all H2s, we would get a node list. Actually, let's do paragraphs. Yeah. And hit enter. And now we can see this is a whole list of, look, it's a bunch of paragraphs on the page, every single one. Let's hover over and see where these are, right? So if I look and I say, okay, where else are things at? Where are you? P classes up there. Now you can see that has all of the paragraphs on the page. Pretty cool. Now we're not far enough yet to do anything with this, but what you could try is just doing document.querySelector P, because what this is this is kind of like a different type of data we haven't discussed yet. We haven't gotten there yet. So for now, if you just want to play with this, try query selector and then just try mucking with, this will always pick the first paragraph. So let's do inner HTML equals, HTML always goes into strings, h2, hello world, and then /h2 and see what happens. So see what changed? We now have a hello world up there. And we were actually able to add in a nice HTML tag there too. In fact, we could put in an HTML tag with a class equals whatever, hit enter, and now we've got an H1 there. So that's just an idea of how you can use the console to actually play around with updating your page, just on the fly, just to see what's available to you. What's nice about the console, to round this out, is that you can just really quickly prototype things. So and test out code. So let Ashley equal whatever. And I'm hitting shift and enter as I'm doing that, by the way. Console and then dot to access the log function, right? Console.log. We're using a function here. We're going to pass it something. Ashley. Let's run both. You've got a whatever. Cool, exactly what we think. But we also have access to a lot of autocomplete and stuff in here that can kind of help you explore what's in the document object model, what's in the API, what can you get at. And if you just want to take a look at things a little closer, let's see what's in document.children, right? Hit enter, and it'll give you a collection of stuff. So here's HTML collection 0. So if you wanted to say, oh, well, okay, well, let's take a look closer at that, document.children. And then, let's see, could you use .0 here? Will that work? No. However, if you use square brackets, you can get at it. This is because this is, let's find out what type of this is we're working with here, console. Actually, I wonder if we could just do type of object. All right. Type of document dot children at 0. Also an object. And then one thing that you can do is when it doesn't have a name, when it's just a number, what I'm doing here is I am using these square brackets to say, okay, at the number 0, show me what's going on. At the number 1, that position, show me what's going on. It makes a little more sense if you have something longer. So if we did document.querySelector all P, and then we said, okay, show me what happens at the first paragraph there. Show me the first one, show me the initial one. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Each of those are different. So give the console a try. Try kind of mucking around. Try changing one thing on the page. So remember how I did that? I went and I used document query selector all. I used the inner text function, and I set it to something different. And the way that I decided what my selector was going to be was I just went right click, inspect element, and I kind of figured out what my class was going to be. Document.query selector all, used a class, .inner text or inner HTML equals nada, and hit enter. Oh, oops, you know what? Let's try that. There we go, much better. The reason why it doesn't do it with query selector all is because it doesn't know which one I want. There's too many of them. There's more than one. So, phew, that's a whole lot to learn in 1 week, huh? But, you know, keep practicing, keep getting it. This is really kind of like the groundwork for a lot of what you're going to see in more complicated JavaScript. So, you know, just kind of power through it, get some practice, try playing along around in both the console and get comfortable as well with CodePen and see if you can kind of follow along and do some of these things. After this video, I would recommend just poking around and seeing what you can muck up in your console. And remember that this is not live. You're not going to change the home page. You're not going to change anything. You refresh it, it's all just in your browser, just like when you're debugging CSS. So with that, I will see you later. Have a fabulous week, and I hope that helps you learn a little bit more about the console.